Hello, I'm Robert Simmons. I'm the author of The Book of Stones, The Stones of the New Consciousness, The Alchemy of Stones, and the new upcoming book, The Book of Moldavite. And I'm making this video today to invite you to participate in my newest workshop, my intensive workshop called Exploring the Spiritual Path of Stones, Transcendence, Transformation, and Ascension. This intensive is a 4-day retreat at the SHUNYATA Retreat Center in Takaka, South Island, New Zealand. I'll give you the details again later in the video, but that's what and where and what the title is. And if you know me or you know my books, you know that working with stones and crystals and their energies for spiritual awakening and transformation has been the passion of my life and my career. And that's still going strong 36 years after I started. I'm very excited to be offering this intensive 4-day workshop in New Zealand. Now, the title, as I said, is Transcendence, Transformation, and Ascension. Exploring the spiritual path of stones. Now, those words, transcendence, transformation, and ascension, are more than just words. They refer to different aspects of the process of spiritual awakening and unfoldment that I feel stones can help us accomplish. And in the workshop, we'll be doing a lot of work in that area. So let's take them one at a time. Transcendence takes place when something occurs that causes our understanding to take a quantum leap into a new consciousness, a new worldview. And in the workshop, we'll aim for that through meditative experiences with some of the highest vibration stones that I've found in my lengthy career. I'll talk about a few of them in a bit as well. My own transcendence, my first one, occurred it is 36 years ago now, and I was sitting with a stone called Moldavite. This is a piece of it right here. And Moldavite is one of the central stones in my work with stones because it's the one that woke me up, and woke me up not only in my own awareness, but also to the ability to feel the energies of other stones. So just in a nutshell, to illustrate what I mean by transcendence, I'll say a little bit about my story. This is 1986. I was trained in science in college, not in anything spiritual. And I was skeptical that what people said about being able to feel energy from stones was a real thing. And the idea that stones had spiritual qualities also didn't really make sense to me. But I had met my wife, Kathy Helen Warner, and she prevailed upon me to sit every day and meditate with the stone in the morning before we went to work. So I did that for some time, about 6 months, and I never felt anything. I was holding a piece of Moldavite, sometimes having my hands in a couple of buckets of Moldavite, thinking more is better. And trying very hard to have an experience. And on this one particular day, holding just one stone, I kind of gave up on my trying. And I said to myself, well, if nothing's going to happen, I might as well imagine something is going to happen and that something is happening. So I envisioned that I was leaving my body and floating up above my body and going up into the cosmos. And I mean, I really didn't expect to go to the cosmos. I was just wanting to go up to the ceiling and look down at myself, or at least envision that I was doing that. And what happened is that I was able to do that. I found myself looking down at my body from above as I listened to my meditation music. And then I thought, well, this is interesting. Maybe I'll try to go up higher. So I went on up through the ceiling and up above the roof of the house. And again, I believed I was imagining all this, looking down at the house, and then kept going higher and could see the neighborhood. and then found myself going faster and faster and out into space. Now, through all this, I was aware that my body was in the room and I could hear the music playing of the meditation music. But nonetheless, I could also see this inner vision of traveling into the cosmos. And I reached a place where I was just surrounded by stars. I couldn't even see the earth anymore in my vision. At that point, I noticed a big golden star in the distance, and I wanted to go to that. So I willed myself to go there, and I found myself able to go in that direction. And after some time, not very long, I found myself close to this golden star, which loomed like a giant sun. And as I was looking at that giant sun, I noticed that there were millions of little replicas of it, maybe only this big, that were going in a big processional orbit around the big golden sun. And every one of them had a little thin thread of golden light that attached it to the sun. And there was this feeling of a holy, joyful, stately spectacle of a procession going around and around this golden sun. And I was moved by that, even as I was both in it and witnessing it. And I found myself so enraptured, I thought, I wonder what I look like here. And I kind of put my attention down to where I imagined my heart would have been. And right there was one of those little golden orbs like I saw all around me. At that moment in this meditation, a voice said, "The light you seek without is identical to the light within." And then in that moment, back in the room, still had my eyes closed, but my hand holding the Moldavite felt a buzz, and then energy came up my arm and into my heart, and my heart seemed to open like a flower opening, like a big white chrysanthemum opening, and light was what the petals were made out of. And the energetic feeling or the emotional feeling of that was joy, incredible joy. And then as that unfolded, more light started pouring up and down the inner and the upside and the downside from my heart. And all the other chakras opened like more flowers. So it was an ecstatic experience, and it was so overwhelming. There was so much light in my body at that point that I was back in my body, and I left the scene at which I had been in front of the golden sun, and I was back in the room just filled with light and ecstasy. It was so powerful that Kathy, my wife upstairs getting ready for work, could feel something happening with me down in the room, and she came downstairs to look. And when she looked at me across the room, she said, "Robert, you're full of light." And I said, "I know." So that was a huge opening, a huge spiritual experience that was completely unexpected. And it happened in a way that made a quantum leap happen in my consciousness and my worldview, something I never expected to happen. I sat there thinking I was going to fantasize an out-of-body experience, which is one of the things that we learn when we work with stones and in all sorts of meditative areas. And that is, imagination is the doorway to spiritual experience. When we do the workshop at SHUNYATA in December, we'll do a number of meditative practices, and among those practices, pretty much most of the times, we'll begin with some sort of visualization or instruction that makes use of our imagination. And what we find is that just like in the experience I related just now, there comes a point in the experience where imagination gives way to the experience unfolding on its own. And we seek to get to that threshold, and we work with what I call the stone beings, the energetic presence of the stones, to help us boost our own vibrations so that it's easier for us to reach that spiritual threshold where big changes and small changes can occur. In my own experience with Moldavite, not only did I have an ecstatic experience of light in my body, but when I calmed down enough to go to work, Kathy and I went to our shop where we sold crystals, even though I had never felt one. And suddenly that day, I was able to feel every stone in the shop. I spent the whole day on the floor, picking up one after another and discerning and enjoying all their different vibrational energies. So that was a transcendent experience for me. It changed my worldview all at once, and it expanded my consciousness, and it activated a new capacity of perception, the ability to perceive stone energies. So that, in a sense, is my little illustration of number one of the three principles we're working on in this upcoming intensive class, transcendence. That's how we transcend. It's an example of transcending. And when we do the event together, there'll be multiple situations in which we draw upon the stone energies and we call upon the stone beings to aid us in reaching the threshold where we go past the limitations of what we knew into an unknown and expanded awareness. So the next word is transformation. Transformation is what happens to our whole way of living, inside and out, as a result of entering into that new transcendent awareness. And again, using myself as the example here, after that transcendent experience with the Moldavite and the meditation that I've just described, my way of life changed completely, because suddenly I was partnering with my wife in a crystal shop, but instead of standing outside of it and observing other people and their observations or what they said they were experiencing or how they felt with the stones, and usually with a kind of a skeptical attitude, I was in it, and I was feeling it every day. And then when people came to ask me things, I had something to say. And if people would bring in their own stone and say, "Can you hold this, Robert, and tell me what you get from it?" I'd have something to share with them about that, because the energy and the feeling and even the unfolding from an invisible intelligence of some kind of what the feelings actually meant in terms of the properties of the stone started coming to me. So that changed my career right on the spot in the shop, and it also was the beginning of me writing about the energies of stones. Now that I could access them, and I realized there was something very real going on, I wanted to write about it and express this, this kind of new world that had opened up to me. So in our 4-day intensive, if and when we reach some of these transcendent areas or some of these experiences that shift us, then we'll notice how this transforms and shifts our attitude towards the lives we've been living, not necessarily wanting to change them. A lot of you who would want to come to this are already here where I am about it. But there'll be many experiences that are new to you, because I'll be bringing a lot of stones that most of you haven't worked with before and that are very high energy stones. So now let's talk about the third word, ascension. Ascension is the next stage in which our new center of selfhood, the center of selfhood that opened up with the moment of transcendence, and that is being built through the transformation of life that we engage in. That new center of selfhood rises, deepens, and unites with its divine spark. And I got a taste of that in that original experience that I began with, because when the voice said, "The light you seek without is identical to the light within," it was telling me that great golden sun, which seemed divine, was the same light that I had in my own heart. So taking that in, not only as an idea or as a thought, but as a feeling, as a felt experience of myself is, or yourself, is what I'm pointing to when I use the word ascension. Because when that occurs, you know, it reminds me of something the poet Kabir said. He said, all know that the drop unites with the ocean, but few know that the ocean unites with the drop. And what I take from that is the little golden sun in my heart was a spark of the same great golden divine sun that all these little suns were orbiting, which I viewed as souls. But not only that, but the presence of the whole of the divine, large, vast, glorious golden sun was holographically right here and is in each of us. Whether you use the image of a sun or some other image, that divine spark is in each person. And when we know it by feeling it, by recognizing it, and realizing that's our identity, that's our genuine identity, that's what I mean when I say that the process of ascension, vibrational ascension, and ascension in the sense of a great expansion of knowing our true nature is happening. So these are the big goals of my work with stones and my spiritual work in general. And these are the things I'm planning to bring to the intensive this December. And, you know, I'll say a bit more about it now. You know, I can say this. Although transcendence can sometimes happen in a single experience, as it did for me in regard to stone energies, these stages don't necessarily happen all at once. And they certainly don't happen just once and you're done. I wish that were true sometimes, but I realize, no, it's really better the way things unfold and the way that they grow and expand organically in us as we repeat and practice the things we glimpse the first time we have one of these experiences. So in regard to transformation and ascension, I believe one definitely needs to practice a lot in order to integrate a new way of being into our lives. And this is where the stones can help us a great deal. Although our attention and our energies can go up and down a lot for some time, and they'll be difficult for some time to keep ourselves focused, crystals and stones are different from the way we are. They don't vary. You can count on them to express their vibrational pattern, their energies and spiritual qualities all the time. So what that means is, anytime I pick up a stone, this stone's a piece of Rose Sophia, I know that Rose Sophia is a stone of the heart. And I know that Rose Sophia has a kind of loving energy that is also curved in a sense within my subtle body in a kind of a delicious, unfolding, undulating way. And I can count on that anytime I pick up a Rose Sophia and hold it to my heart. I know that I'll be able to connect with those qualities. So it's a great help to us as we're learning to focus our attention on the levels of awareness and the kinds of consciousness that we're trying to develop, that the stones can provide a rock solid way of connecting with those things. So I'm sure that everybody practically, if not everybody, who's hearing me say these words already knows this about them. But I still think it bears repeating because, as you can see, if we're going to transform our lives, we need practice. We need practice in a new way of being. And the stones are incredibly helpful in that way because they connect us with these expanded, higher vibrational kinds of awareness that are the ones that are the most rewarding and the ones that are aspects of our true nature.